Hi, and welcome to Think NP's Backstage Pass. And today we have with us Sheldon Wolf, who is president of the Advancement Company, LLC. And Sheldon, welcome, and thanks for being with us on Backstage
My pleasure
Pass.
to be here.
So let's get right into it. So what kind of consulting do you do for nonprofits? What's your work?
So my work has been in three areas. A lot of development work, and that would be everything from annual fund, a little bit of grant writing, annual fund, capital, straight through capital campaigns.
Right.
I've done more of that recently. So that's the whole kind of development arc.
Right.
And then I do some amount of marketing, which I think some people might say branding. They're kind of high-level marketing questions that I'm asked to solve.
Right.
And the third area would be strategic planning.
Okay. And they all kind of tie together for sure.
They certainly tie together. Certainly the marketing development piece, they're overlapping all the time. How can you raise money if you're not communicating who you are and so on? So those questions really are very much interlocked. Most of my work has been in the cultural world.
Right.
Although there are exceptions. A couple of medical-related organizations. I'm working with a watershed group. Right now, sports group, so...
Yeah, when you told me that earlier today, I kind of gave me some pause because
yeah, that's a little out of the box.
Right.
That's out of the box for me, and it's a sport. No, I don't think I have to know all the details of the sport,
Well, yeah.
But I don't know that much about it, so I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
One of the great parts of being a consultant is you get to learn a lot.
That's true. It is, it's one of those fun things that if you really get into understanding more about our world, about wanting to, like today, like I said, you're with a theater, tomorrow you're with a sports team, and the next day an environmental organization. It really widens your...
It really does. It widens your worldview. So I get to work with a lot of different kinds of people, which is fun.
Yeah. Now, actually, that reminds me of something that we talked about also earlier, is that you do a lot of background reading and do things that kind of broaden yourself.
Yes.
Anyhow, so how do you find that connects? Do you connect those two together? Like you're reading with the variety of kinds of organizations?
Well, a lot of the reading, I come out of a theater background, and now I'm working with or have been working with a number of theater groups. So if I'm reading plays, that's always very handy. And reading about playwrights, reading about the theater world, certainly that comes in handy. A lot of my work has been in the art world with museums or art centers. There are quite a few art centers in this area. They're very active programs. And I read a lot about art as well. I go to museums a lot. I'm very interested in art history.
Okay.
So that's those are naturals for me. But I'm just an avid reader.
So do you bring up things with your clients that you read about and so kind of connect the dots for them?
Well, sometimes it's connecting the dots, and sometimes it's helpful to say, oh, that's a Picasso. It creates a nice trust bridge that I'm not a total novice. I'm a novice, but I'm not a total novice in the field. So it allows for a certain kind of fluency, with my clients. That really helps. But I read a lot of novels as well. I think it's really important to understand human nature.
Sure.
I think that's almost any business, but there's a lot of sales, there's a lot of group management, there's a lot of interpersonal relationship, and novels touch on that. So to know about people, that helps. I'm reading a book on architecture, it's all I'm interested in science, it's all over the map. So.
Sure. Well, that's really cool. So how did you get into working with nonprofits?
Yeah, so I began I was still in school, but in the summers I worked in a theater. There used to be summer stock theaters. There aren't very many these days, but I worked in summer stock, and I was on the production side of the business. I wanted to be a playwright, and I thought it was important to understand how Backstage worked, how the theater worked, and for several years I was a technical apprentice, and then I did props
Okay.
Again, that was sort of my intro into the art world.
Yeah.
And then worked in the off-Broadway. This is now after graduate school or during graduate school.
Yeah.
Off-Broadway for nonprofit theaters.
Okay.
Again, on the production side. And then made a switch because I wanted to eat. Into the management side of the theater, because you could work, could work 70 hours a week for 52 weeks a year and make $10, a year out of doing that. So there seemed to be a little bit of money in management, and I felt I had interest certainly, but I also had affinity. So when I was in college, I began college as a math major.
Oh, interesting.
And math really interested me.
Yeah.
And the problem-solving part of math really interested me.
Right.
And I found that interest was really transferable.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah,
that
so
you started in as something that folks would never
totally
put
different.
that together. Yeah.
Totally different. So you should, if I had them, my college applications were, I want to be a math major and a theater minor. They must have looked a little askew at all of that. But anyway, so there I was now doing management work for one of the large theaters in New York, off-Broadway theater. And from that I moved to a regional theater in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Right.
Was there for quite a while. And then I moved just up the street to a museum complex, quite wonderful, in Springfield, and got very involved in the museum world.
And was that the management
This is all now in management.
So the transferring between the theater and another cultural organization, but a very different kind of cultural organization.
Very different. I was very nervous about it.
Yeah.
On two levels. One, I started off doing marketing for the theaters, and then picked up the development work. And let's just pause there a minute, because this would have been in the early 80s, and what development was at that point, were a lot of shoeboxes with index cards.
Oh, definitely.
And volunteers who were doing bake sales, and and where we are now, is so different from that. So I began working with volunteers on fundraising, annual fund. And then museum world, that was somewhat new to me, but I had this art interest. The complex I worked for had art, science, history, and library. The whole library system at the time in Springfield was part of this one nonprofit.
Sure.
So those were all areas that I was interested in. Matt, earlier today you said you were interested in geology, which happens to be an interest of mine as well. So a very broad, I just have very broad interests. So this organization appealed to me. I ended up staying there for 13 years.
All right.
Very unusual
but
in the nonprofit development field.
You built a lot of relationships, I imagine.
A lot of relationships. I was very involved with the New England Museum Association. And then it was called the American Association of Museums. And then it's now called the American Alliance of Museums. Very involved with them. I presented lots of programs. So I was getting a lot of exposure. Which was great.
So what brought you to Philadelphia? How'd that?
So through this national organization work, again presenting a lot of programs, I got a call one day. At this point now I was living in Boston. This is now 2 jobs later. 2 jobs later, living in Boston, and I got a call from Pew Charitable Trusts here in Philadelphia, asking if I'd be interested in serving on one of their grant panels. And they don't have this program anymore, but it was a program that dealt with historic sites and history museums.
And I know some organizations, every once in a while I've gotten calls, will you be, in my case it was a volunteer, to read these applications for us to help with whatever program it is. So
this was for transportation, and they paid our lodging and an honorarium. My memory is in a couple of $100s. For reading 40 to 50 proposals and commenting on them, and coming to Philly for a week, for me, so they got the better end of the bargain from everybody. But I did that for 2 cycles, and I thought these proposals were just terrible. Organizations that had just seemed to have very unclear direction.
Yeah.
They were doing a bad job of explaining why this project that they wanted money for was next. How did it fit into any big picture? What was the context? And then on top of that, they were poorly written. I saw that as a minor problem. But if you don't know where you're going, then, then how are you going to write about all this? So I spoke to the folks at Pew at the time and said, do you think there's room for another consultant here in Philadelphia? Because I hated being in Boston at the time. There were lots of issues there. And
not that Boston isn't a great city.
Boston is a great city, but my work situation was just terrible, and I really needed to get out. And Pew said, I think this opportunity. So I came to Philly maybe 5 or 6 times, and just met with people.
Yeah.
When everyone would say, oh, you need to call X, you need to call Y. So I was networking with people, found it a very welcoming, open city, very different from Boston in that way. Yeah. Boston has other features, but not open in this way. And in one of those meetings, I met with the director of a museum here in town, someone I knew vaguely from my National Museum appearances, and she said, I have this big job, can you start doing this in 2 weeks?
Wow.
And that kind of made my decision. And and my wife, who was also unhappy with her job, and I held our hands in Boston and just said, let's just jump off the bridge. What's going to happen?
Right.
We'll move and we're going to figure it out.
Wow.
So we moved and we figured it out.
Yeah.
And that was 12 years ago. So so that's kind of so the path was, unhappiness with the traditional work situation, and doing a lot of work related to consulting, either for Pew or for kind of helping people out in various national situations.
But you spotted a market. It means that you had conceptualized it that way at the time, but you spotted a market and you decided to investigate it.
So it isn't as though I had been dreaming for years about, let's be a consultant in Philadelphia.
Yeah, right.
No, it didn't happen that way at all. Yeah. So just seeing the opportunity and let's try this. And I am best of all able to let's try this with one client. Already in place, not that was going to pay for anything, but that was in place. And just weeks afterwards, my wife got a job at Temple University Hospital, where she's still working. So the pieces came together. That little risk. Worked out.
Some people would not think of it as that little risk.
No, I'm joking. I'm telling you. We actually said we're holding hands and jumping off the bridge. Because we were very, very unhappy. We were really. I mean, there's lots of details behind all that. That will be a movie someday. But it was horrible.
Wow. Well,
it was horrible.
So, what describes your ideal client? What is it that really, if you were to draw a picture, would be?
I think an ideal client is somebody who knows that they need help.
Okay.
So
they're self-aware in that respect.
They're self-aware. So many people, not just in the nonprofit world, but in the world, I think go through with just a sort of blinders on. I know everything there is to know about, everything that there is to know about, and here we are. And if there are issues, they're not my issues. People don't understand me. It's very easy. You hear this a lot. The marketplace is wrong.
Yes, correct.
And I think as a certain kind of person who's able to say, maybe there's something that we're doing that needs adjusting. And if we can begin with that, then that's a wonderful start for a work relationship.
And so how do you find these folks, or do they come to you?
I thought you were going to tell me that.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry.
I'm so confused. So at the beginning, I had this client right away. So after I was working here just a very short time and said, okay, this might this might work out. This is weeks later.
Yeah.
I put together a letter, a one-page letter that I sent out. I went to the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance, which most of the cultural organizations belong to, and I got their little booklet of membership, and I put together a mailing list of organizations that sounded appealing to me, kinds of places that I might want to work with, and I sent out a one-page letter of I'm new. I came to the area on the recommendation, which was true, of people at Pew Charitable Trust, a name that seemed to open a lot of doors for me, and these are the kinds of things that I'm hoping to do. Here's a little bit about my background. I didn't put a full resume, I just one page, and if I could help you, give me a call. In response to that, I know I picked up 2 clients. So this was so early on. I had 3 clients. One of them was in New Jersey. And it was, I'm not even sure, it was different. Big performing arts center. But one of them was one of the larger museums here in the Philadelphia area who stayed on as a client for 10 years.
Wow, that's great.
Which was just great. And then, as I was meeting people, maybe most of my clients have come by referral.
So in essence, networking, getting out and talking to people.
Networking. So these people were referring me to other people they knew. Networking. The Cultural Alliance is great. That's a wonderful network of people. And unfortunately, she died. Peggy Amsterdam, who was the head of that group, was just fantastic, and she referred me to some folks, and I was meeting consultants who were working in other areas of the nonprofit world, and they started referring me
I guess if you're engaged in an area that isn't like, I don't know, a museum or a theater, and somebody comes to you and says, gee, I'd like to do this, a lot of consultants are more likely to pass that on.
Here's someone who does that.
Than
who does that kind of work. So the networking is really key. And yes, I still meet people regularly for coffee, for lunch, I still go to the events, the networking events, in the different disciplines where I'm working. A lot of my clients, if there are art openings, I will go to those art openings. I will go and see performances at the theaters, even when I'm not working with them. Because there's an opportunity then there's the board member I haven't spoken to, or there's the artistic director I haven't chatted with a while. So, those 7-second conversations that happen in the lobby during intermission are really key. And some of them are, give me a call next week, there's something I may have for you. You just don't know. It's certainly, the old expression is, it's like chicken soup, It may not help, but it wouldn't hurt. So it's not going to hurt. I'm doing things that I love to do anyway.
You're watching a great show, and then if it means, going and at the intermission and talking to a few folks, and it doesn't sound like hard labor at all. So.
It's not hard labor at all. And I'm pretty chatty. So I'm pretty chatty, and I'd say if I had to list skills, one of my skills is working a room. So, I could get to have a lot of short conversations in a brief period of time, and it's great.
That's really cool.
So that networking is just key.
Now, I know you've done a lot of writing too. How has that impacted what your sales, your being able to attract clients?
Well, I think I obviously wrote a good one-page letter.
Well, obviously, yes, Let's start there, right? That's a good one.
So that helped, and I've done some revisions of that at different points, and tried to send it out in different ways. Yes, but certainly one of the skills that I could offer people is writing their materials. And
no, I'm thinking of things like writing.
Playwriting?
Oh, well, or like, I know articles, or you said you've done some LinkedIn things and all that?
So I wrote some blogs on LinkedIn, and I shared that with a friend who had published a book on museum membership. It's like narrow topic. And she said, I think you have a book idea here, and connected me with her publisher, and just within the past week I have a contract now. to write a book. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. So we don't have a real good title for this yet, but the idea of the book is a marketing approach to museum fundraising.
Right, right.
And I want to really consciously, so often in the fundraising area, you see the donor pyramid. And the donor pyramid very often says, here is your low-level annual fund donor, and then here is your higher donor. In the museum world, membership, fits into that pyramid.
Sure.
And so on. But I start my pyramid way lower, and everyone always laughs when I bring out my pyramid. Everyone just laughs because the lowest level on my pyramid is the universe.
Okay.
So from the universe, we're going to decide the next band is what is our marketplace?
Right.
Who are we talking to in any way? Who's even vaguely interested in what we're doing?
Sure.
And so many organizations skip that step.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in the museum world, how do those people or some of those people become attendees? How do we even get them in our door?
Right.
Because if they're not in our door, they're probably not taking the next step to enter that other pyramid which has membership on the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to start the process much earlier. And by doing that, I think I demonstrate a lot of things. Is that it is not only in the development director's interest to be deeply involved in the product selection, but it's that person's responsibility. And very often the development staff is cut out of the program
just go
conversation. All right, I know that we're a contemporary art museum, but we want to do this exhibit on ancient Cambodian wall painting. It's like, what? Where is this coming from?
Right.
So shouldn't there be some opportunity, at least to say, if you want to do that, that's fine. But here's the impact that has.
So as a consultant, how do you guide that conversation so that the program people understand that the fundraising people are more than just an ATM?
Yeah, so it gets back to when I used the word branding before, who are we as an organization and what are we trying to sell?
Right.
What's our product here? And what's the language that we want to use to talk about that? Whether we're the parking lot attendant or we're the CEO, whatever that title might be, what's some of the language that we want to talk about for this organization? Because all of these parts are interconnected.
Right, right. Yeah.
So in the same way that I talk a lot about restaurants when I'm consulting, what are the factors that lead somebody to go back to a restaurant?
Right.
Food is only one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and it's not.
And so often it's like, well, they serve good food. Yeah, but if the service is garbage, if the parking lot is filthy, if the bathroom is disgusting,
if it's not in the right place,
just all of it, not in the right place. If the price is wrong, if you can make a very long list of all of those factors. And the food, which seems to be the product, is just a piece of the product. So in the cultural world, what is that product?
Right.
And there's a wonderful book that's called The Experience Economy. The author is Joseph Pine.
Okay.
And talks about how people buy experiences.
Right.
So you're not just going to see the movie because you could see the movie on your computer.
Right. Yeah.
So when you go to the movies, what are you buying?
Well, and I guess in the same respect, when you're engaging a consultant, you, me, anybody could tell them, the donor pyramid and all those things that we all can pick up from any number of fundraising books. But what's the experience we're providing our client so that they feel good about what they're getting and actually do the thing?
and do the thing. So this is another part of the answer to the question you asked before, is typically I meet with everybody.
Oh, okay.
You know, I don't just meet with the development staff. I like to meet with as many people as I can meet with some point along the way.
Yeah.
So not that everyone needs to participate in the full conversation about what next year's annual fund letter needs to be.
Fair enough,
But
yeah.
at the very least, people need to know, here's how this all fits together.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're talking about the parking lot attendant. You know, somebody there, I mean, there's so many little things that can go wrong that take everything else out. I worked at a place one time where parking was at a huge premium, and people years later would tell me that they never would go back because parking was a problem.
Well,
And
it's the truth.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's the truth in many. It's many decisions. So, you know, I love the theater. I certainly love going to Broadway theater, which is expensive enough.
Yeah.
But then the whole experience is even way more expensive. So I think twice about doing something that I love.
Right.
So what
right.
about something that I don't really love? You know, so you know, I'm just probably not doing that again.
Or
because
bring a consultant in who might tell you things that you don't want to hear.
Right. So there's a whole bunch of factors. So in the marketing side of things, traditional marketing says there are 4 P's to marketing. So
Right.
product, price, place, and promotion.
Yep.
So in most nonprofit organizations, they jump immediately to promotion,
Yeah.
as this is where we're going to solve our issues.
Right. Let everybody know, and we'll fill up the seats.
Yeah. And then I ask, you know, are people not coming because they don't know, or are people not coming because they do know and they don't like it or they don't care?
Or the price is wrong.
You know, so
Right. And it may not even be the price is too high. It might be that it's so low that because they put price and quality
Yes.
together, they say, well, that can't be good. They're not charging
Yeah,
enough.
so there's a good book. I'm quoting a lot of books here. There's a good book, Subscribe Now, Danny Newman. This is an old book, like from the 70s. And he gives the example of you're driving down a country road and see a sign that says fresh eggs. So
Right.
one example is, you know, fresh eggs, $2 a dozen. And one sign says eggs free.
Yeah.
So who's going after those free eggs?
Yeah, right.
I think. you
What's
know,
wrong with those free
wrong,
eggs?
What's wrong with those free eggs?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, and people will just veer right off the road, you know,
Right,
and get the
right.
$2 a dozen. So yes, the price, you know, not necessarily because it's too high, but it's wrong.
Right. Yeah.
It's
exactly.
wrong for the product. The place, as you talk about, you know, maybe you're in the wrong neighborhood. Maybe people can't find your door.
Right.
For many organizations now, place also includes what you offer online.
Yes.
So that's a place as well. So,
That's a good point.
You know, big art museums now are making their collections available online, sometimes only to certain groups of people
Right.
for a fee. But that's a place where they're fulfilling their mission.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the product, you know. So, and it's very hard to go into an organization and say, you know, how good are your plays?
Yeah. That's the part they don't want to hear.
They really don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But somebody has to ask that question.
Yeah, yeah. Now, do you ever get in a situation where you're protecting the staff by asking the hard questions they can't, kind of sacrificing yourself that way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that definitely happens. You know, because you have certain, many people still use intimidation as a management style.
Yes.
You know, so the staff just feels like they can't participate.
Right.
But that's, you know, part of the consulting as well, is to help the CEO see how great ideas are not filtering up. You know, because the CEO is not necessarily spending lots of time in the parking lot, but
Right.
your operations person maybe is.
Yeah.
So if
yeah.
that person can speak up, then you're not getting necessary feedback on the decisions. You know, you can see
Right.
how
It's
all of these pieces fit together. And what I find so often in the books that I read is they leave all this other stuff out of the conversation, but it may in fact be most important.
Yeah, Yeah. Well, this is fascinating. This really is. There's so many great lessons to learn from in fact your theater experience and how it applies to your consulting.
So the theater world is so different from, let's say, museums.
Sure.
I worked in this summer stock theater, kind of hard-nosed producer at the time. And he would say, asses in seats.
Yeah.
You either knew whether you were selling those tickets or you weren't. You were full or you weren't. You had one shot.
Yep.
After the performance was over, it was over. You didn't have another chance to sell those tickets again.
Right.
And you knew a lot about what was going on.
Yeah.
In other disciplines, it's a little harder.
Yeah.
A little harder to see. It's a little harder to gauge. In theater, you know whether people are laughing or not. In the museum world, are they appreciating that Cambodian exhibit or what? What's happening?
Yeah.
And you don't really know while they're there.
And people aren't jumping up and down, clapping at a painting.
Right. So are there mechanisms, which I encourage people to do? Are there mechanisms that we could put in place? So often, people are coming into museums and you're asked to fill out your name and address and you're entered into a raffle to get a catalog or something or another. Well, now that we have all that info, there's an easy way to get back to people and say, can you tell us about your experience?
Yeah, what do you think?
What'd you think about us? You have to want to hear it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, one of the things I say to myself sometimes is that if a client comes back again, I've done a good job the first time.
Well, it is very key, and I get a little wound up, when clients don't come. Sometimes they don't come back because all they had was their short-term job, and there's nothing to speak to me about. But sometimes, what happened there? I thought it all went so well. But I want that feedback. I want that feedback too. And sometimes I just come right out and ask for it. Okay, how do we do?
And again, you have to want to hear that.
You have to,
and it's hard a lot of times. Yeah. Especially if you hear that they didn't do anything with what you, and sometimes it's not a reflection on you, on us. It's a reflection of their internal systems. We didn't move forward on that because
ideally we can identify some of that ahead of time before my work stops.
Right.
Then figure out, okay, so what's the baby step that you can do?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And as I say, I pop in a lot, even after the fact, to a lot of organizations to, I'm still interested in their work. I still go to their gallery. I still see. So I'm able to see, well, did they do this or didn't? Did they change that sign or didn't they change,
Right.
And so on, which gives me a nice opportunity of contacting them again and able to say, this is all the networking,
Sure.
Hey, you put that sign up. That's great. I'm hoping you're getting some response to that. Or, still couldn't find the men's room. Seemed easy enough. Can't you solve that problem?
Well, it's the consulting equivalent of management by walking around.
Well, exactly. So I will walk around, and get back to people, whether I'm on contract or not.
Yeah.
I try to pop in, and see how it's going.
Well, Sheldon, this has really been great. Is there anything in particular that you would like folks to know that maybe we didn't cover?
So I was thinking about this beforehand about what goes into being a consultant, and I came up with 2 areas of study that I want to recommend.
Oh, cool.
So I kind of touched on one in terms of reading. So that is, I think it's helpful to study psychology. But the other, and you get this from my background, is I think it's helpful for people to study acting.
Yes.
So, not that you ever want to be a professional actor, well, maybe you do, but to understand the art of listening to other people. So acting is all about listening to what the other person is doing, because the way they inflect their voice in this performance might be a little different in the next performance. So your response can't be exactly the same because what was said to you is a little different. So you have to really train yourself to listen to those nuances and to catch what's really going on. What's the subtle meaning that's behind this or that?
It's the difference between being genuine and robotic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think acting classes help teach that. help teach a bit about group dynamics, about how groups function together.
Well, I can really see that. Back in my professional career, I called on an actress one time. I'll say she was an ex-actress. She got written out of a script soap opera because she demanded a contract. A little bit of a story. Anyhow, after some ups and downs, she finally decided to open up her own business where she coached people on how to do UN presentations. And she became what was in effect an acting coach, an acting teacher. And she flourished. She really loved it. She'd be able to go to certain things and say, well, I made an impact on that world policy because I prepared so-and-so to give that testimony, who then moved that committee to make this decision.
Yeah, very key.
Yeah.
Very key. And she probably didn't change any of the words. But changed how those words were presented.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Those are all key skills. I mean, how often as consultants are we talking to groups of board members or presenting our plan, and you have to be convincing.
Or even take a level up. I found that in major gift fundraising, the folks who are the development officers are the theater directors. Now, bring in the board member to have that conversation. Bring in the executive director and all that. And as consultants, we serve that role a lot of times too.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah,
indeed. So study acting, read, learn psychology.
That's great.
I think that's all key.
Yeah. Well, Sheldon, this has really been helpful, and it's really been fun to talk about these things and to learn so much from you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. It's fun for me.
So this has been Sheldon Wolf, and Sheldon is president of the Advancement Company, LLC, and this has been Think NP's Backstage Pass.